I've had a lot of people ask me if what you see behind me is a green screen or not. I guess maybe they think that I'm lying about where I film some of my videos. Well, as you can see, this is my real game room, and I'm not lying to you. What about ChatGPT and similar AI assistants though? You're probably using them every day, but did you ever stop to think if they're lying or could be wrong? What do I mean by that? Can it give wrong answers or information? Can it be wrong for a certain use? The answers are yes and yes. Let's talk about it. Sometimes the response that you get from a large language model can indeed be a lie, misleading, or factually incorrect. We typically refer to this as a hallucination. This is often happening because of the data that the model is trained on. Sometimes those massive data sets contain errors, incomplete information, or even certain biases. So if a model is trained on biased data about gender or race, it might use that bias whenever it gives you some kind of output. I'm sure you're familiar with the expression garbage in, garbage out, and that is 100% relevant when it comes to the correlation between data and model output. There are also times when the model lacks understanding or reasoning. When a large language model is responding, it's often just predicting the next word in a sequence, but it may not always understand the underlying concepts or context. So it might very confidently answer a question about a topic it doesn't fully understand, even if the response is somewhat inaccurate. Different AI models can have different purposes or best uses. An extreme example would be if I wanted to use a large language model for summarizing meeting notes, I would not go out and use the geospatial model built by NASA and IBM Research for Earth observation. It really doesn't fit my use case. This concept is extremely important when you think about using AI as part of enterprise applications or processes. So if you're using generative AI to look at large chunks of text from support tickets, and then you're categorizing those into specific categories or priorities, you really don't need an extremely large size model with like 200 or 300 billion parameters like what ChatGPT uses, because most of the training data under the hood is really irrelevant to the task at hand. Inferencing or calling that massive model over and over and over for this very specific use case is going to end up costing you way more money than if you just use a smaller model that was more suited or trained to do what you're trying to accomplish. Another way that we can alleviate hallucinations is by building out RAG or retrieval augmented generation applications. This is when you have a solid foundation of data, documents, or whatever else. It's kind of like your repository that you're making prompts against. For example, if I ask ChatGPT what the PTO policy is for Nintendo employees, there's no way for it to know the answer to that unless it's public information. If I ask this question against a RAG application sitting on top of Nintendo's confidential HR documents, it would know the correct answer because it's using those documents as a source of truth. So to wrap up, yes, any large language model is technically capable of producing inaccurate information, not just ChatGPT, or hallucinating depending on the prompt provided and other relevant contexts. But there are ways to help us get great outputs, such as using targeted models, training models for certain uses, or grounding our model in the right data or documents. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to my small channel. Until next time.